The ship's alarm blared suddenly, cutting through the calm. Alara's hands flew across the controls, her eyes scanning the screens. "We've been followed," she said sharply. Lena felt the blood drain from her face. "Followed? By who?" "By the hunters," Cale replied grimly. "They must have sent reinforcements. We won't be able to outrun them for long." Alara didn't seem panicked, but Lena could feel the tension in the air. She looked at Cale, her mind spinning with the implications of his words. "They're still after you," she said, her voice shaking. "They'll never stop," Cale answered. "Not until they have what they want." Lena swallowed hard. She had thought they were escaping, but it seemed like the real battle was just beginning. Alara adjusted the controls, her face grim. "We'll have to make a stop. A detour. There's a place we can hide, but it's dangerous. We can't stay there long." Lena's stomach churned. She didn't want to face danger again, but she had no choice. "Where?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "A place called the Ruins. It's an abandoned base, deep in the asteroid belt," Alara replied, her tone cold. "It's the last place they'd look." "The asteroid belt," Lena repeated, a sinking feeling in her gut. "That's far out. Why would they leave us there?" "It's the perfect place to disappear," Alara said. "But it's dangerous, and we won't be there alone." The ship's engines hummed louder as it adjusted its course. Lena couldn't help but feel like they were heading into the unknown, into something darker than they could imagine. They had no idea what awaited them in the ruins, but one thing was certain: they were being hunted, and no matter how far they ran, they would always be looking over their shoulders. "Cale," Lena began, her voice soft. "What happens now?" Cale's eyes met hers, and for the first time, he seemed to show vulnerability. "Now we fight. We find the answers, and we make them regret ever coming after us." The stars ahead shimmered with cold light, but all Lena could feel was the weight of the unknown pressing down on them. Whatever the ark was, whatever the ruins held, it was no longer just about survival. It was about taking back what had been stolen. And there was no turning back now. The snow had turned red by morning. The war had moved on from the area, but signs of battle were everywhere. Broken weapons, empty shells, and the smell of fire that refused to leave. Elian Graves, the human medic, walked quickly through the icy wind. He told the guards he needed herbs again. They didn't question him. He reached the cave, brushed away the camouflage, and slipped inside. Jurak, the wounded Threxeri, was still awake. He sat leaning against the rock wall, his chest rising slowly under the bandages. His golden eyes stared at Elian, as if trying to read him. "You came back," Jurak said in a rough voice. "I said I would," Elian replied, kneeling beside him. He checked the wound. It was healing, but still dangerous. "You could have let me die." "I could have," Elian said, "but I didn't. Your people must hate mine." Elian looked down. "Yeah, most do. But that doesn't mean I have to become like them." Jurak didn't reply. Instead, he closed his eyes and leaned his head back. Elian gave him more water and some food bars. Jurak took them without thanks. But the way he ate told Elian something. This Threxeri was starving. "Why did they leave you?" Elian asked after a while. Jurak looked at him, then said slowly, "They thought I was dead. Or they didn't care. They left one of their own behind." Jurak's voice was cold. "Among my people, if you fall, you're weak. And weakness is a curse." Elian felt a chill run through him, and not just from the wind. "You fight for strength," Jurak said. "We fight for power. There's a difference." Elian nodded, unsure what to say. That night, back at the base, Elian sat alone by the heater, staring into nothing. His hand still smelled like alien blood. His mind kept replaying Jurak's words. "If you fall, you're weak." Was that what they believed? The humans weren't saints either. Elian had seen commanders leave wounded soldiers behind to save fuel. But still, something about the Threxeri code felt colder, emptier. He didn't sleep. Over the next 2 days, Elian visited Zurich in secret. He brought painkillers, medicine, and blankets. Zurich didn't talk much, but he listened. Elian told him stories about Earth, oceans, animals, old cities, things Zurich had never seen. The Threxeri homeworld was harsh, built on mountains and black stone. There were no soft places, no kindness. For the first time, Zurich asked something personal. "You're a healer. Why are you in a war?" Elian took a moment before answering. "Because people keep getting hurt. Someone has to fix them." Zurich looked away. "Strange." Elian smiled a little. "You think everything about me is strange." "Yes," Zurich said, "but maybe not all of it is wrong." One morning, Elian arrived at the cave and found Zurich standing on one leg, trying to balance. The other leg was still healing, but he was pushing himself hard. "You shouldn't be up yet," Elian warned. "I won't survive lying down," Zurich said. "I have to be ready." "For what?" Zurich paused. "They will come. Either your soldiers or mine." Elian knew he was right. The cave wasn't safe forever. "I'll figure something out," he said. "Just rest for now." Zurich nodded slowly. That evening, a human patrol returned to base with strange news. "Found some footprints in the snow," the surgeon said. "Not human." Elian's heart skipped a beat. "Animal?" someone asked. "Maybe, or something else. Keep your eyes open." Elian tried to stay calm, but the panic grew in his chest. They were getting close. Later that night, 2 soldiers in the barracks whispered behind Elian's back. "He disappears for hours. Says he's picking herbs. In this weather. Think he's hiding something. Maybe. We should report it." Elian heard every word. He knew time was running out. Back in the cave, Zurich sat by a small heat lamp Elian had brought. He looked stronger now, eyes sharper, voice firmer. "They suspect you," he said when Elian arrived. "I know," Elian replied. "I need to move you. Tomorrow." Zurich stared at him. "Why are you risking everything?" Elian's voice was quiet. "Because I saw someone dying, and I couldn't walk away." Zurich looked down at his claws. "Among my kind, that is weakness." Elian stood. "Then maybe it's time your kind learned something new." Neither of them spoke after that. But something passed between them. Something like understanding. What neither of them knew was that a drone camera had recorded their conversation, and it had just sent the footage back to both Human Command and the Threxeri war fleet. The battlefield was covered in ash and blood. Smoke filled the sky, turning day into a dirty gray. Explosions echoed in the distance. The war between humans and the Threxeri had reached this cold and broken world. Medic Elian Graves moved fast, his boots splashing through muddy snow. He didn't carry a weapon, just his medical pack, stained with old blood. Around him, human soldiers lay screaming, wounded and scared. Elian's hands moved on their wounds like a machine. Fast, focused, and trained to ignore the horror. "Stay with me," he told a young soldier missing a leg. "You'll live, I promise." He injected the man with a painkiller and pressed a bandage against the wound. A loud boom made him flinch, but he didn't stop. There was no time to be afraid. As he moved to the next injured soldier, Elian's comm crackled. "Enemy retreat confirmed. Area is almost clear," a voice said. "No survivors expected on their side." That was when Elian heard something strange, a soft growl. He turned his head and froze. Just beyond the rocks, something was moving, crawling, bleeding. He carefully approached the sound, heart pounding. When he pushed aside a broken piece of metal, he saw it. A Threxeri. The alien's skin was dark blue, its armor cracked and smoking. One of its arms was broken, twisted the wrong way. Blood, thick and green, flowed from a deep wound in its chest. Elian had seen Threxeri soldiers before, usually from a distance, usually shooting at them. But this one wasn't shooting. It was barely breathing. The alien looked up. Its golden eyes met Elian's. There was pain, anger, and fear. Elian stood frozen for a moment. His orders were clear. Do not help the enemy. Do not waste supplies. If found, report and move on. But the Threxeri was dying. Alone. Forgotten. Just like some of Elian's friends had died in the early days of the war. He looked around. No one was watching. He dropped to his knees beside the alien. "You're gonna die if I don't help you," he muttered, opening his medical kit. The alien hissed weakly, trying to push him away, but its hand trembled. "Easy," Elian said. "I'm not here to hurt you." He cleaned the wound, injected something to stop the bleeding, and wrapped the chest with synthetic bandages. The alien winced, but didn't resist. Elian worked fast. Time was short. If someone saw him, it would be over, for both of them. When he was done, the Threxeri had passed out. Elian looked at the strange face, the ridges along its forehead, the markings on its skin. They looked different from the usual soldiers, more detailed, more important. But he didn't have time to think. He had to hide it. He dragged the alien to a small cave near the supply station. It took everything he had. By the time he was done, sweat covered his face and his hands were shaking. He left food and water beside the alien and covered the cave entrance with rocks and cloth. Then he returned to his duties like nothing happened. At night, he couldn't sleep. His hands still felt the alien's skin, rough and burning with fever. His heart still beat fast, like he was still out there, saving someone he wasn't supposed to save. What if someone found out? What if they executed him? He stared at the ceiling, trying to calm down. But deep in his gut, something felt right. He had done what he swore to do: save lives. The next day, Elian returned during his break. He told the guards he was gathering herbs for medicine. The alien was still there, awake this time. It didn't speak, just stared at him. "You're lucky I found you," Elian said, checking the bandages. The alien's voice was dry and cracked. "Why?" Elian hesitated. "Because I'm a medic, and that's what I do." The alien closed its eyes. "Foolish." "Maybe," Elian replied. "But you're alive." What Elian didn't know was that this alien had a name feared by Threxeri warlords. Prince Shurek of the Threxeri Dominion, warrior heir to a brutal empire. An empire that would never forgive weakness or mercy. The moment Kel hit the button, the world changed. The beam of blue light that shot up from his wrist device pierced the stormy sky, lighting up the thick clouds above. It was bright, blinding, and powerful. Far too strong to be ignored. Lena's heart raced. "We need to move, now," she whispered, grabbing Cal's arm. But it was too late. The hunters heard it. They knew exactly what that signal meant. They spun around, raising their weapons, locking their sights on the glowing beam. "Run!" Lena shouted again, pulling Cal up to his feet. But Cal was slower now, his body weak and trembling. The wound on his side had reopened slightly, and he staggered, gasping for breath. Lena's pulse quickened as she heard the hunters advance. The sound of their boots crushing the forest floor grew louder. They were closing in. "Cal, we need to go now," Lena cried, her voice breaking. But Cal barely moved. His eyes were locked on the sky, on the beam. For a moment, Lena didn't understand. Why wasn't he running? And then she saw it. A shadow in the sky. A dark shape, moving fast. A ship. Lena froze, her breath catching in her throat. It wasn't a military ship. It wasn't one of the hunters' crafts. This ship was different. Sleek, shining, glowing faintly in the stormy sky, cutting through the clouds as if it had no weight. It was coming for them. Cal's fingers twitched, still holding the device. He looked at her with wide eyes. "They're here," he whispered. "They're coming." Lena didn't know what to do. The ship above was heading straight toward them, but the hunters were only a few steps behind. The first soldier raised his weapon, aiming straight at Cal. Lena reacted instantly. She grabbed Cal's arm, pulling him deeper into the trees. But the soldiers were faster. A blast of energy shot past them, grazing the bark of a nearby tree. The soldiers were almost on top of them. They were going to be trapped. Then, another pulse. A sharp, powerful shockwave blasted from the sky, hitting the soldiers. They were thrown backward, their weapons dropping from their hands as they were slammed to the ground by the force. Lena's eyes widened in disbelief. The ship was here. It hovered just above the trees, glowing brightly with blue energy. The forest was now bathed in its light. The air crackled with static. For a moment, everything stood still. The hunters who had been closing in on Lena and Cal were now scrambling, dazed, trying to get up. But they were too slow. The ship fired again, this time a wide energy blast that knocked the remaining soldiers off their feet. Lena didn't know what to say. She had no idea who or what was flying the ship, but it was saving them. "Go," Cal shouted suddenly, pulling Lena toward a nearby ravine. Lena didn't question him. She followed, running as fast as she could, still glancing back at the ship. The hunters were retreating, regrouping. But the ship wasn't finished. Another blast rang out, and the soldiers were forced to flee, retreating into the forest's depths. The ship had scared them off. Lena and Cal reached the ravine's edge. They both collapsed onto the ground, breathing heavily, their bodies soaked with sweat. The ship above them hovered for a moment longer, then slowly began to descend. Lena's mind was spinning. Who is this? What is happening? Cal, still panting, looked up at the ship. His eyes were filled with something Lena had never seen before: relief, hope. "Friends," Cal said simply, his voice trembling. "They came." Lena didn't understand. How could he be so certain? But before she could ask, the ship landed softly in front of them, its engines humming quietly. The ramp opened slowly, revealing a figure in a dark cloak. A human figure. Lena stared. This wasn't what she expected. Whoever had come for Cal wasn't just an alien ship, it was human. The figure stepped down the ramp. Their face was hidden by the hood, but there was something about their presence that was both familiar and unsettling. Cal stood up. His legs were unsteady, but he didn't hesitate. "Thank you," Cal said softly. The figure didn't reply at first. They just studied Cal carefully, eyes hidden in shadow. Then they spoke, their voice low and steady. "You're alive," the figure said. "We didn't expect to find you alive." Cal nodded. "I wasn't supposed to be." Lena's heart pounded. "Who are you?" she asked, stepping forward. The figure finally pulled back their hood, revealing a face that was both human and yet strangely unfamiliar. Their eyes were cold, but not unkind. "We are your people," the figure said, voice calm but filled with an undeniable authority. "The ones you left behind." Lena felt her blood freeze. She couldn't shoot. If she missed, Cal would be dead before she had a second chance. Alara, however, didn't hesitate. In one smooth motion, she pulled out a small silver device from her belt. She pressed a button, and the ground beneath them trembled. Suddenly, a wave of force slammed into the hunter, throwing him backward. His weapon clattered to the ground. Lena blinked, unsure of what had just happened. Alara stood, her face hard, and looked at the fallen soldier. "He's not your problem," Alara said coldly. "But if you want to live, you'll get out of here." The hunter scrambled to his feet, staring at Alara with a mix of fear and rage. But he didn't move. Instead, he slowly backed away, disappearing into the trees. Lena and Cal stared after him. That was close. Lena breathed, her heart still racing. Alara nodded. We're not done yet, but we're alive. And for now, that was enough. The ship lifted off the ground, its engines roaring to life, and the forest below faded away as the craft soared high into the sky. Lena felt a strange mix of relief and unease. She was escaping the hunters, but she wasn't sure what was waiting for her on the ship or where this journey was truly taking them. The craft shot through the clouds, slicing through the atmosphere as the planet shrank below them. Soon, the Earth was just a distant memory. But it wasn't the end of their journey. It was only the beginning. Lena's thoughts were a whirlwind. She kept glancing at Cal, still trying to piece together the fragments of truth that Alara had revealed. The government had abandoned Cal, yes, but there was more to it than that. The Ark, the survivors, the experiments. And then there was the ship that had come to rescue them. It had all been planned. But by who? She didn't know. And with every minute, the questions grew deeper. Where are we going? Lena asked, her voice cutting through the heavy silence. Alara, standing at the control console, didn't look back. The Ark, a safe house for survivors. It's far from the reach of the government and the hunters. Survivors. Lena repeated, her heart racing. From what? Cale spoke up, his voice tired but steady. From the mission I was part of. The one that went wrong. We were sent to a distant star system to discover something no one should have ever known. We thought it was just an exploration, but it turned into a weapon we couldn't control. Lena stared at him, confused. A weapon? Not in the way you're thinking, Cale said, his eyes dark. It was a discovery that could change everything. But we were betrayed. The government wanted it, but they couldn't control it. And so they abandoned us, left us to die. And you were one of the lucky ones. Lena asked quietly. Cale nodded slowly. I survived. But the rest of the crew, they didn't. Now, the government thinks I know something. They think I have answers. And do you? Lena asked, feeling her chest tighten. Cal's face hardened. I don't know. Not yet. But I need to find out. Alara finally turned around, her face serious. The Ark is where we'll find the answers. There are others like Cal, survivors of the failed missions. They know more than we do. The ship continued to rise, leaving the stratosphere behind. The stars were endless, a vast sea of light stretching far into the distance. For a moment, Lena almost felt a sense of peace, like they were beyond the reach of those who had tried to hunt them down. But the peace was short-lived. The wind screamed outside the cave, louder than usual. A snowstorm had arrived. Inside, Elian wrapped Jurek in a thick coat and secured the bandages again. We move now, he said. Jurek frowned. In this weather, you'll freeze. We don't have a choice. If we stay, we die. If we go, we might live. Jurek looked at him, then nodded once. Then let's go. Elian gave him a wooden cane he had carved from a broken branch. It wasn't strong, but it was enough. Jurek leaned on it as they stepped out into the storm. Snow slapped their faces. Ice bit through Elian's gloves. They moved slowly, leaving no footprints. Elian used a branch to sweep their trail clean as they walked. It took over an hour to reach the hidden tent Elian had set up in an old bunker ruin. He pulled Jurek inside, zipped the flap tight, and lit a small heat lamp. Jurek dropped to the ground, breathing heavily. I would rather fight a human army than walk through that storm again. Elian laughed, just a little. You might still get the chance. Jurek's smile vanished. That night, Elian checked the small transmitter he used to receive human orders. One message blinked. Unknown heat signatures near North Sector. Patrol dispatched. Be alert. His heart sank. They were being hunted. He looked at Jurek, who was now asleep on a pile of blankets. Elian couldn't turn him in. Not now. Not after all they'd shared. But saving him had already crossed a line. And now, others knew. Far above the battlefield, aboard the Threxeri warship Bornachtha, Commander Vale received the drone footage. She watched in silence as the human medic helped a Threxeri soldier. She recognized the soldier. Her blood turned cold. "Impossible," she whispered. She rushed to the private chamber of the Supreme Matron. The door opened. The room was dark, lit only by glowing runes on the walls. "My matron," Vale said, kneeling. "We found him." The Supreme Matron turned slowly. "Jurek." "Yes. He lives. Wounded. A human medic hides him." The matron's voice was barely a whisper. "Bring him back. At all costs." At the human base, Captain Rowan sat in his office, watching the same drone footage. His jaw clenched as he saw Elian speak to the alien. "Help the alien. Protect it." He slammed a fist on the table. "He betrayed us." The lieutenant beside him hesitated. "Sir, he's a medic. Maybe he. Don't defend him. He's aiding the enemy. That's treason." Rowan stared at the screen. "Send the team. Bring Elian back, dead or alive." Back in the bunker tent, Elian packed quietly. He knew they had maybe hours left. Jurek opened one eye. "You look nervous." "They know. Both sides." Jurek sat up fast. "You should leave me." "I won't." Jurek growled. "If they find you helping me, they'll execute you." "I know," Elian said. "Then why stay?" Elian stared at him. "Because you're not just some alien anymore. You're a person, and you didn't deserve to die in the snow." Jurek looked away. "You still don't understand what I am," he said softly. "I'm not just a soldier. I'm—" Before he could finish, the sound of engines roared overhead. A human drone zipped by, scanning. Then came the louder, deeper hum. Threxeri dropships. Both sides had arrived. Elian grabbed Jurek. "Can you run?" "I'll try." They burst out of the tent just as a human flash bomb exploded nearby. Light blinded them. Gunfire followed. Elian ducked behind a rock, pulling Jurek with him. Above them, a Threxeri ship hovered, but it wasn't firing. Instead, it deployed two cloaked warriors. Jurek's eyes widened. "They've come for me." Elian stared at him. "Who are you?" Before Jurek could answer, a human soldier's voice echoed from a speaker. "Elian Graves, step forward. You are under arrest. Surrender the alien." Elian's heart pounded. He looked at Jurek. The Threxeri was bleeding again, struggling to breathe. Running was no longer an option. They were surrounded. He had one choice left. He stood up, raised his hands, and shouted, "He's not your enemy. He's royalty. If you kill him, you'll start a war Earth can't survive." The battlefield went still. For just a second, even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The silence was terrifying. Elian stood tall, arms raised. Snow swirled around him. Behind him, Jurek leaned against a rock, bleeding. The human soldiers aimed their rifles. So did the Threxeri warriors, now unmasked, each with glowing blue armor and strange plasma spears. They weren't firing. They were waiting. "Did you hear me?" Elian shouted again. "He's royalty. You kill him, and the war changes forever." A human soldier stepped forward. "Where's your proof?" Jurek coughed, wiped blood from his lips, then lifted a necklace from under his torn armor. A small black crystal, pulsing blue. The human soldiers tensed. The Threxeri warriors dropped to one knee. One of them shouted in their language, "Hair of the matron. Alive." The humans didn't understand the words, but they understood what was happening. The alien warriors were bowing, not fighting, not attacking. Elian took a slow breath. "He's your prince, isn't he?" Jurek gave a weak nod. "Second son of the Supreme Matron. Thought dead. Left to die. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I didn't trust you. And now?" Jurek smiled a little. "Now I do." Captain Rowan's voice crackled over the soldiers' comms. Capture both. If the alien is royal, we use him as leverage. Elian heard the message through the squad's open mic. His eyes narrowed. Leverage? You'll start another war. Rowan didn't care. You betrayed your people, Graves. You don't get to argue. The human soldiers advanced. But the Threxeri warriors moved first. One of them threw down a small device. A shimmering wall of energy burst to life between the two groups. A shield. Jurek's guards stepped beside him. The leader, taller than the rest, spoke to Elian. Come. The matron demands her son. Elian looked back at the humans. Guns raised. Faces hard. He had no home there anymore. I'm going with him, Elian said. A human soldier shouted. Then you're a traitor. Elian stared at him. No, I'm still a medic. I save lives. That's not betrayal. The Threxeri leader touched a control on her wrist. A beam of light shot down from the sky. A transport lock. They vanished. Elian landed hard on a cold metal floor. He stood up quickly and froze. Before him was a grand hall of dark stone and floating lights. And at the center, a massive throne carved from black crystal. On it sat the supreme matron. Tall, silent, her eyes like burning stars. Jurek stumbled forward, falling to his knees. Mother. She left her throne. Kneeling beside him, she cradled his face gently. You live. Jurek nodded, breath shaking. Because of him. He pointed to Elian. The matron turned. For a moment, Elian felt like he was standing before death itself. But she didn't speak words of anger. Instead, she said, You saved my son, a human, when your kind left him to die. Elian stood firm, because he was alone. And I'm not a killer. The matron studied him. You risked your life, your honor, your future. I'm not sorry. Then I owe you a debt. Elian blinked. What kind of debt? Jurek interrupted, voice steady now. Let him live. That's all I ask. The matron gave a slow nod. He will not only live, he will be protected. He is Threxeri now. Elian was given a room aboard the royal ship, high above the battlefield. Through the glass walls, he saw Earth's warships moving below. And then, the message came. A new order from Earth Command. All units, ceasefire, temporary truce requested by Threxeri Empire. Reason, Prince Jurek found alive. Human medic involved. Await further instructions. Elian sat alone in his quarters, holding the translator device the Threxeri had given him. His own people now saw him as a criminal. But the ones he had once feared, the aliens, treated him as a hero. His world had turned upside down. And yet, a feeling inside him whispered, this is just the beginning. The night was cold and stormy. Lightning flashed across the sky, turning the forest white for a second before everything went dark again. Thick clouds covered the moon. Rain poured down through the trees like a broken sky. Lena Carter gripped her flashlight tightly as she walked through the woods. She wasn't supposed to be out here this late, but the sound she heard, just 10 minutes ago, was not normal. It wasn't thunder. It was a crash. Something big had fallen from the sky. She was a paramedic, trained to help people in need. She had worked in cities, war zones, and even mountain rescue. But nothing ever felt like this. Her gut told her something strange had happened. She moved carefully, boots sinking into wet leaves, light cutting through the darkness. Then she saw it. A line of broken trees, smoke rising between the branches. Something had crashed here, something not from Earth. The object was sharp, metallic, and glowing blue in parts. It hissed with steam and pulsed like a dying heart. Lena stepped closer, heart pounding. Inside the wreckage, something moved. She raised her flashlight. It was a body, not human. It had gray skin with deep cuts. One of its arms was bent the wrong way. Its chest rose and fell slowly, alive, but weak. Its face was long, with dark eyes that blinked at her in confusion and pain. For a moment, Lena couldn't breathe. This was real. An alien, right in front of her. Then the creature raised its hand. A small device lit up on its wrist, flickering with symbols. A hologram appeared above its chest, bright red, with alien letters flashing quickly. It looked like a warning. Then it vanished. Sparks flew from the wrist device. The creature groaned and tried to sit up, but it fell back and coughed. Black blood ran from its mouth. Lena took a slow step forward. "You're hurt," she whispered. Of course, it couldn't understand her. But maybe tone mattered. Maybe kindness could cross species. The alien reached toward her, then collapsed. Suddenly, a high-pitched hum filled the air. Lena looked up and froze. 3 black drones hovered in the sky above the crash site. Small red lights scanned the area. One of the drones beeped and turned toward her. She ducked behind a tree, heart racing. The drones weren't looking to rescue the alien. They were hunting it. She looked back at the creature. It lay still now, eyes barely open. Alone, wounded, abandoned. She could walk away. Let the drones find it. Pretend she never saw anything. But something inside her said no. She had seen too many people left to die in war zones. She had held the hands of soldiers no one came for. This alien, whoever it was, wasn't just a creature. It was a life. And it needed help. She made her decision. Lena ran to the alien and grabbed its arm. It was heavier than she expected. "Come on," she said, pulling. "You want to live, right? Then move." The alien groaned again, this time trying to stand. She slung his arm around her shoulders and guided him away from the wreckage. Every step was hard. His feet dragged. Her back hurt, but she kept going. The drones searched behind them. One flew lower, scanning the wreck. Then it beeped again, louder this time. Lena and the alien had to hurry. She turned off her flashlight and used memory to move through the trees. Her cabin was not far, just half a mile more. Behind her, a beam of red light shot down into the forest. It hit the crash site and burned the remains. They weren't just hunting the alien. They were erasing all evidence. By the time she reached her cabin, both of them were soaked and shaking. She pushed open the door, helped the alien inside, and locked it behind them. She lay him on the table and looked at his face. He was fading fast. "I don't know who you are," she said softly, "but I'm not leaving you to die." She grabbed her medical kit and got to work, cleaning wounds, stitching what she could, and trying to stop the bleeding. His blood was thick and dark. His skin flinched at her touch, but he didn't fight. After an hour, he was still alive. Lena sat back, exhausted. Thunder shook the cabin walls. Outside, the drones passed overhead once again. But inside, a stranger was alive, because she had refused to walk away. And soon, the whole galaxy would know what one human had done.